Yo, what's good, guys? In this video, I'm about to be going over the trade that I took today that made me a bit over $4,000. And the reason why this worked was basically due to internal versus external liquidity, as well as where we were at the start of 9:30, basically at the start of New York session. So this was a bit different than the normal trades I take, but it's basically just because of how we opened up. So we opened up all the way up here outside of the value area and well over the point of control. This is obviously a fixed volume range profile, and it's from 3 a.m. to right before 9:30, so we could get to see where the volume was traded in during London session and pre-market, basically to gather as much data as possible. So yeah, but we could see, okay, we end up all the way up here showing that, okay, even though a lot of volume was down here, we ended up breaking out of it, and now we're not even in what was considered to be good value prior in the day. So once we go below that, right, and we seek out internal liquidity, and also another thing, not only was this internal liquidity, which if you don't know what internal liquidity is, it's liquidity within a range. So like the bottom here would be external liquidity and all the way down. It's really high, but like external liquidity, so it's at the start of a range. But internal liquidity is within the range, right? So we're clearly going up as we approach 9:30, and come 9:30, we go all the way down. I'm looking, okay, we're definitely seeking internal liquidity at this point, and obviously, I didn't trade towards internal liquidity because I didn't find a trade, or else, yeah, somewhere like here would be a good target since it's within the value area. So, yeah, but no trade obviously, uh, before that because as you can see, we kinda shot right down into the value area. I'm already too low here to take a trade all the way down to here. We go up, whatever. And as soon as we take internal liquidity, now I'm like looking at the possibility, well, we have to look for something higher if there's opportunity presents itself, and it ended up doing so. So where would I target? And actually, before I get into where I would target, another reason why this works so well is because if you look, so we consolidated here, as you guys could see in London session, and then we end up going up. So let's mark the range from the bottom here from when we started to here. As you can see, the point 0.5 over here is equilibrium. So we could tell, okay, this is a point where now we're in a discount, so there is a chance that we end up going up. These other markings over here is the what is it called? Sorry, optimal trade entry zone, and we ended up tapping in there, so it's even more of a confluence. But even if you don't use optimal trade entry, you could still see you're below equilibrium, so you could start considering a long position. So now that's out of the way, I'm gonna remove this so it's not as cluttered, but I drew that out on my chart while I was actually trading. Now, I wanna take something back to where, this is deemed it's like a concept in, like, actually university and when people actually study the markets, it's reverting back to an open price because it's kind of like what the point of control is, it's a fair price. So, where the market was before an influx of volume is where buyers wanted it to be, right? That's why the market is there, right? The market is based on buyers and sellers and where obviously they think the price is fair to be. So it's basically an auction. Well, it is an auction. It's a competition between the 2. So at this point, people thought well, not people thought, people showed that it was fair that price was over here. Then obviously, when 9:30 volume comes in, a lot of orders come through, basically a lot of volume in the day. So it kind of messes up price, right? So this is basically a reversion trade, how people call it in actual like when people actually talk about like trading in courses in uni and stuff and in college. They say this is a reversion back to some area of price, and in this case, it's the 9:30 open. So reverting back to that price, but also using a liquidity, which is where orders are like being held, of course, which is over this double top over here, and obviously here as well. And obviously, we ended up taking out more liquidity of this range, obviously here, but I was not too greedy, so I decided, okay, since we just took out liquidity and now we're forming our setup towards the upside, well, I'm going to target something as a reversion back to the 9:30 open. So you could target here or take partials here, but since it's so close to liquidity, I'm assuming that liquidity will get hit as well. But we could see right as we hit the revert, like hit back to the point where we're trying to revert to, which is the 9:30 open, we ended up like kind of moving back down, which is obviously a bit scary in the trade. And I didn't take any partials this trade. But obviously, I had my stops at break even at that point, but I was pretty confident because we have a lot of gaps here, and basically, there's a lot of confluences for us to continue going up because, as I said, usually when we go for internal liquidity, we're actually in the long run we're gonna try to aim for external liquidity. So external liquidity would be something outside of the range, right? If you're in an uptrend like this, boom, you want to go down and then not only reach the top, also keep making moves up, which we ended up doing. And now we're in a retrace down, where there's obviously less volume in the day, so it'll probably take till a more like volatile time, like let's say London session or New York session, for us to continue up if we ended up continuing to the upside. But yeah, so that's basically the basis of the trade and basically all the ideas why I took this trade. And I like giving you basically my whole mindset going into it and not just giving you like, oh, step A, step one, step two, step three on entering the trade, because I feel like that doesn't actually let you take trades on your own. It doesn't enable you to take trades on your own. But by this way, you could like understand what all the things that I'm saying, I hope, and apply it to the next day, because no other day is going to be exactly like this. The concepts that I'm speaking of still apply, like a reversion towards a 930 open or any open that you're trading where an influx of volume comes in. Again, a volume profile from the previous session when there's a lot of volume, internal to external liquidity. But basically, all those concepts I hope resonate with you and basically help you to become a better trader. So yeah, now let me just real quick. I'm gonna go into the entry model, which doesn't really matter honestly, as much as people think. But I'll show you guys how I entered. So we took out the liquidity, boom, mitigation because there was no breaker block here, and there was no high that I could just go over, especially on the 1 minute. Maybe if you went on the seconds chart, you would have found that. But I don't really like trading on the seconds chart, especially now. But some other when markets are on a different type of cycle, sometimes the second chart makes more sense. But anyways, so mitigation block over here, that just signifies when we break the structure, which we ended up doing. I'll just mark that out, but it's pretty clear. But it looks pretty aesthetic when I do, so fuck it. Do it. Boom. Break a structure. We break that structure and we come back into the mitigation block as well as the fair value gap. The fair value gap, I honestly would have probably taken the trade with only a mitigation block, but the fair value gap also adds another confluence basically for us to take a trade. And as well, why there's a fair value gap is because this candle had a lot of displacement, which is obviously a good thing. So enter into both of those, which is down here, which is exactly my entrance point. Uh, and the stops below the mitigation block, because as you can see, that would invalidate the trade. So we go up after I write when I enter, and then we go back down into the mitigation block, testing it again. So I was not really stressing at all. I left the trade a lot of room to breathe because there's no point of taking a break even like above this point, because there's no really other point where price is likely to reverse from unless we're actually in a downtrend. And in that case, that mitigation block would have got invalidated. I would have lost. But in this case, I was right. So boom, we hit the mitigation of block again, and then we start moving up all the way to my target and all the way reverting back to the 930 open right here. So that's basically all what was in this trade. I don't know. You guys could rewatch this video. I kind of said a lot of information because again, I wanted to give you as much knowledge as possible. But yeah, so I hope you this gave you some insight because it's a bit of a different trade than I normally take, even though I use the same type of ideas and concepts. But some that I didn't talk about, like the reversion to the 930 open, and basically it was nice to see an internal to external liquidity trade as opposed to what I normally see, which is external coming back down to the point of control or another internal liquidity level. So yeah, hope you guys learned something for this video. Let me know if you guys want to see any other types of videos, or if you have anything you basically want to tell me or anything you didn't understand in this video. Let me know in the comments. I appreciate your guys' support. I guess like and subscribe if you guys mess with the video. But yeah, I'm gonna see you guys in the next video. Easy boys.